in bio. Visit my shop. Click on the link in bio.
Oh, okay, that's enough. Okay, we need to talk about this, because if we've ever felt bombarded and overwhelmed by all of the noise on the internet, then how, as online sellers, can we sell our stuff without just contributing to more noise? I don't know, maybe I'm just oversensitive to it, because at the time of filming we're coming up to the holidays and the advertising foghorn has been cranked right up. But it just feels like there is an awful lot of shouting on the internet right now. Buy this, launching this, get so much % off, do you want this coupon, blah 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 blah. And that's before you even take into account the amount of times I've heard Mariah Carey on the radio or wherever. She is everywhere, not just the radio. TV, my phone, my daughter's bedroom at 7 in the morning, because apparently Christmas music helps her get ready for school. I don't know if there is ever a good time to hear All I Want for Christmas, but 7 o'clock in the morning is not it. But I digress. It just seems that in order to stand out on the internet, many people, the majority of people, have decided that you have to shout louder than everybody else. But the trouble is, everyone's doing that, so everybody's just trying to shout. It's like a Wall Street bull ring at the moment, with everyone just shouting and nobody hearing anything. Well, I feel like we've reached peak noise and the sound is deafening. And if you think about it in terms of Seth Godin and his purple cow analogy, I do love that one. The trouble with that analogy, though, is that now everybody is trying to be the purple cow. So what you have is a bit of a fever dream of a field of multicoloured cows all mooing at top volume to try and get noticed. And which one of them stands out? None of them, because they're all multicoloured and they're all mooing at top volume. That might be one of my most random analogies yet, but I think it makes the point quite clearly. Okay, so why doesn't this work anymore? Well, for a multitude of reasons, I think. One of them being saturation. The internet is a much, much bigger place than it used to be. Everyone's on there, everyone knows how to use it now. My nan, who's in her 90s, is online now. It's not the small place it once was. Another reason is that people are getting more educated now on marketing techniques, both as a seller and also a buyer. So a lot of the things that used to work, they don't work anymore. And I can't make this video without mentioning the current state of the economy, because it is a factor, and you can't just ignore it like it doesn't exist, because at least at the time of filming, unfortunately, it does. People are still spending money, but they are choosing to spend it more mindfully. So businesses, as a result, are just shouting louder and being even more in your face to try and get the attention of buyers. If shouting the loudest and being the brightest, most multicoloured purple cow in the field isn't working anymore, what does? Well, it's kind of the same but different. You've heard of the whole work smarter, not harder, right? Okay, well in this instance, I think, let me just put down my coffee because I need to wave my hands around a bit more. I think in this case, it's partly making sure that we are talking at normal volume to the right people rather than shouting loudly at as many people as possible. I know, it always comes back to talking to the right customer, always, but that's part of it. But another big part is the whole being different aspect. That hasn't changed. You still need to stand out from the crowd. It's just that how you stand out now is different. Whereas once all you needed to do was shout the loudest and you would get noticed, that no longer works. Being the purple cow in the field no longer works because everybody's trying to be as bright and noticeable as possible, and everybody has colours and it's not that these things didn't work or don't work, it's just that because there's so many people doing the same thing, that's no longer how you stand out. So it's a case of keeping up with what helps you stand out. And I'm going to tell you a little story because I think this highlights what I'm trying to say beautifully. So a few years ago I was listening to my Spotify playlists in my car. At the time though, I didn't have a paid account, and on the free account, at least at the time, you had to put up with ads just being slotted randomly in between your songs. It was very annoying, and every time an ad would come on, my brain would immediately switch off. It would just be noise in the background that I would just filter out, and I couldn't tell you any of the ads that came on because I just can't remember them. Except one that has stuck in my brain years on. And it was, well, I'll tell you who the company was in a minute. Basically, I was listening to my song and an ad came on, and there was nothing. Complete silence. And I couldn't tell if an ad was coming or if my phone had just disconnected and it wasn't playing my playlists anymore. So I had to stop and look at my phone. Wasn't that clever? The way to stand out on a platform where audio noise is your thing, the way to stand out from all of that noise was to... So I looked at my phone, because obviously what's going on, and all I saw was the ad, which was a simple black background and the word Uber in white letters. There was no other copy, just the company name. Well played, well played. They didn't need to say anything else. They had got my attention, and I thought, Uber, okay. And even years on, here I am telling you about their company and this advert. My point is that that was brilliant advertising, extremely creative, because they figured out how to stand out, how to really stand out on that platform and get people's attention. Now, I'm not telling that story because I want you to apply that to whatever you do, but hopefully you're going to take that as an example of how you can really be different. You have to keep thinking of new ways because it's forever evolving. And to tell you another quick story that's YouTube related, at the moment and for a little while, there's been a conversation going on about how, or has, Mr. Beast ruined YouTube. Most of you will know who Mr. Beast is, even if you've never watched his videos, because he's a huge deal. But every time I hear someone ask the question, has Mr. Beast ruined YouTube, it annoys me. It annoys me so much, because regardless of how you feel about his work and the videos that he makes, he's gotten to where he has because he did everything differently. He ignored trends, he ignored what everybody else was doing, and he did something very, very different. And then came everybody else who wanted a piece of that and copied what he was doing. You know that whole advice of check out your competition, see what's working for everybody else and emulate it? This is what happens. Everybody emulates it, models it, is inspired by it, and then suddenly it doesn't work anymore. We have reached peak beast. But it's not his fault. It's the fault of the people that came after him and copied what he did. And now it doesn't work. Now what works will be something different. That's my point. Trying to be different to stand out from the crowd is still good advice. I think it always will be, to be brutally honest. It's just that we need to constantly evolve and think critically about what that looks like, because it's going to be ever evolving. And with regards to selling online at the moment, it does seem to be the go-to method to just shout louder and be more in your face. And I'm thinking that maybe we need to be thinking a bit more creatively about how we stand out, and perhaps at least tone down the dial a little bit for the love of all that is good in my ears. How exactly we do that, I don't know, because it's going to be different from seller to seller dependent on what you make, what you sell, even which country you're in, I guess. It depends on things like cultures and whatnot. I suspect that value is going to be key, the value that we offer to our customer in whatever form that comes in. And again, that's going to look different from seller to seller. I mean, what I offer in value of... yeah, there's one there. The project bags that I make is going to look very different to the value that someone who makes hand-sewn leather wallets, to someone who makes hand-thrown mugs, to stickers, for example. You get my point. It's going to be different for everybody. We need to get to know our customers. We need to find out what they want, what they really, really want, to quote the Spice Girls. And the best way to do that is to ask them, really. I mean, take this video. This is probably a really bad example, but I asked the channel members what topic they wanted me to cover this week, and I gave them a list of the topics that I was thinking about covering. They got to choose. The reason why that isn't a great example is because they equally chose all of them, so I still ended up having to make the deciding choice. Thanks, guys. But hopefully you get my point. You need to ask your audience, you need to ask them for feedback, for their opinions, and pay attention to the pearls of wisdom that they have to offer you. So honing down hard on what value you can offer your customers or your audience is key. But also then you can take it one step further to stand out. What's the phrase? With surprise and delight. An example of this would be on Etsy. It wasn't always the case that people used to add freebies in with their orders, but it started becoming a bit of the culture of Etsy that people would add freebies. The problem with that, though, is that it almost became expected to the point where it stopped delighting and surprising. And I even saw someone in a comment section once saying that they don't give 5-star feedback to people unless they add freebies. And I stopped offering freebies from that point onwards. To be fair, I do sometimes put freebies in some of my packages if I have something extra that I think would add a little bit of extra to the person. But not always. It depends if I have any to hand, and I can, but it's not always doable. So this idea that freebies are mandatory, why is it always the small business owners that are expected to go further and more above and beyond than the corporate businesses? It grinds my gears, but that's possibly a rant for another week. Let's keep it on track. That was an example. Again, things have changed, and how you can surprise and delight your customers is also going to change and is also going to be unique to you and what you do. So you can have a think about that as well. How can you add value to your customers, but also maybe add a dollop of surprise and delight? Oh, one I've just remembered one that I used to do. I should probably bring this back, actually. I love it. I used to make bags with secret messages inside them. I used to literally embroider a little secret message in the lining of the bag. How did I forget all about that? I'll see if I can find a picture and I'll put it on the screen somewhere if I can. And if there's no picture, it's because I couldn't find it. Before I made hand embroidery the main part of my business, I've always managed to sneak it into my business somewhere along the line. And I think as creatives, makers, designers, we have a bit of an advantage here because we already have that creative mindset, so we can really get creative with the ways that we do this. And I think if I were to offer any advice, it would be to have fun with it, because if you're having fun coming up with these ideas, the chances are it's going to go down well with your customers too. And I have found in the past that the things that I've done with fun in mind tend to have been the most popular products that have gone down the best with customers. Yeah, so yes, get creative and give yourself permission to have fun with it, because that might actually be key. And I can't believe I'm including this, but another way to stand out online these days is through honesty, transparency, and authenticity. I mean, I know that should be a given, but unfortunately not. So if you are those things, or you can show that you are demonstrating those things, you have an edge. For example, I did another video recently about how Etsy appears to be trying to clean up the platform a little bit. And I mentioned that one of the ways that you could stand out as a print-on-demand seller was to purchase some items from the supplier to quality control them. And that way you could also use them to take photographs of and sort of show the customer the quality, and it just adds a little bit more transparency and all of the things that I've just mentioned. Ooh, and embracing our imperfections. I wanted to throw that in because I've had quite a few conversations. Good grief, Kim. A sign that I've perhaps talked too much because words are getting difficult. I've had a couple of conversations with people where it seems that they feel that they're afraid of coming across as not professional enough in some way, shape or form. I had a comment from one lovely lady, I don't know if you're watching, if you are, hi, who said that they weren't sure about, was it making videos or something because of her Brummie accent? If you're not from the UK, when we talk about a Brummie accent, we are talking about people with a regional accent that shows that they are from Birmingham or the Midlands somewhere. And that, I would say, would be a strength. Why? Because you stand out. Just without even having to try, just from showing up and being you, you stand out. Because newsflash, Americans, not every British person goes water bottle. That is a very specific part of England. And despite my accent, I'm not even English. But yeah, some of us say water bottle. And then some people like my husband do actually say water bottle. But he's from the area that you say that in. I'm digressing again. It's your fault. My point is that your perceived weaknesses can actually be your strengths, and what you think as something that might hold you back might be something that your community connects with, like I say, and be your strength. It's all in here a lot of the time. We project stuff onto other people, and it's all in here. So whatever you think are your perceived weaknesses, you could be sitting on gold there. Be nicer to yourself. Yes, that was your weekly dose of mum face. Enjoy. Pick a floor and flip it over like a penny. That's another random analogy for you. Ultimately, what made me want to make this video is because I have noticed a growing wave of noise. It just seems to be getting louder and louder and louder. And again, as I said, flock of geese just flew over the house. Very pretty. Anywho, what was I saying? I do realise, as I said at the beginning of this video, that maybe I'm just being oversensitive to all of this noise hoo-ha because it is the time of year for it. But it does make me wonder, not just now, but also year round it crops up. If I ever feel a bit touched out in terms of online noise, where does that leave me as someone who makes my living online? Because unlike the Uber ad that I mentioned earlier, I can't just rock up and say nothing. That would be a weird video. Nope, I can't do it. I can't do it. Ugh. I tried. I failed. Silence just doesn't pay the bills, and as much as I would love to go to my bank and say, hi, I'd like to pay the mortgage this month with silence, I don't think they would be as enthusiastic. I'm not really sure what the answer is. To be honest, I'm in the trenches alongside you, so I guess I just hope that something that I've said in this video may have lit a spark, given you an idea, made you feel a little less alone at the very least. At the very least, just kept you company while you worked. And as always, take what serves you and leave the rest. If you've gotten this far, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Ta-ra!